I'm sorry, Chair Batusik. We're unmuted on Maya's computer, so we can't hear you.
Okay, so far we've just introduced commissioners and staff. I didn't get to you yet, Clinton, did I?
Yes, you did.
Oh, I did. Okay. Commission Secretary Noriko Sauer and Janice Hata, the Zoom host in Hilo. Okay, so everybody please keep your cell phones turned off or in silent mode. Is anyone here that would like to testify? Please fill out the yellow sign-up form in the back table and give it to our staff. If you have any written testimony that has not been sent in earlier, you may submit it now. Everybody who's attending in person, please remember to pick up your microphones when you speak. Please speak directly into the microphone so that your statements can be recorded and transcribed. Next order is the approval of minutes. Review and approval of minutes on August 18th, 2022, Leeward Planning Commission. Are there any corrections? No. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Vice Chair DeFranco.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Paishon Duarte. They're being approved as circulated. Any discussion? No. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Motion carries. We'll proceed with statements from the public on agenda items. So as stated in the published agenda, members of the public may provide public testimony regarding any agenda item now or at the time the agenda item is called in order. If there's anyone here that would like to testify, please fill out the yellow sign-up form in the back table, give it to our staff. Testifiers on Zoom, you may choose to provide your testimony now or at the time of the agenda item. Please keep your video camera off and audio muted until you're called to testify by the host. Please note that this is an in-person meeting and the Zoom platform and YouTube live stream provided as a courtesy. So our meeting will proceed even if the Zoom and YouTube connections fail. Finally, before we start to receive public testimony, I want to share a reminder on the Planning Commission rules 1 through 5. I'll remind everybody that the chairperson or vice chairperson may limit testimony which is irrelevant, abusive, disruptive, or unduly repetitious. The person testifying shall direct his or her remarks to the chairperson and not to any individual commission member, staff member, or person in the audience. All members of the public shall extend proper courtesy and respect to one another, commission members, and staff. Any person that doesn't abide by these rules may be ruled out of order by the chairperson who has the authority to maintain order and decorum. I further request that commissioners take an active role in assisting with maintaining order. If any commissioner objects to any behavior that is undiplomatic or improper, please interrupt by stating point of order and your concerns can be discussed. And finally, if in the event that there are any behaviors displayed by applicants, members of the public, or by commissioners that are disruptive to the order of today's meeting, I will not hesitate to exercise authority as chairperson to address these behaviors and if necessary, remove disruptive parties from the meeting. I'll provide one verbal warning. If the warning isn't heeded, I can call a recess to give a second verbal warning. If there's any further disruptive or disrespectful, discourteous behavior following the recess, the party will be removed from the meeting. It's important we all understand the procedures that we put in place for maintaining decorum. Is there any public testimony that would like to be given now, or would it be given during the time of the agenda items? Yes, sir.
I've asked for public testimony at the time. Where's the next issue?
You can give your testimony at the time of the item. Okay. Is there no other public testimony? Okay. Agenda item 1 has been withdrawn by the applicant. Continuing to agenda item 2. The applicant is Sunshine Holdings LLC. However, at this time, Commissioner Kanuha will recuse himself as he's a neighbor to the property, which will cause us to lose quorum for that particular item. So it will not be discussed here today. So any questions or concerns?
Can you hear me? I wanted to testify, and I don't think you saw me on Zoom.
I didn't. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's
Please.
okay. Please excuse my ignorance too. I'm new to this, and I'm trying to learn how to voice my opinion as a resident in Kiola. So your bill 194, is this the time where I can testify? Because you mentioned testifying about anything. So can I testify against that right now or for that?
Sure. So
Okay.
the options are you can either testify about it now, or you can wait until that agenda item is called, and then you can testify at that time.
Okay.
So what would you prefer?
Well, I guess, how long is the meeting? Because I just have to go to work. So,
Oh, yeah, please feel free to testify now. That's no problem.
okay, thank you. So,
if you don't mind, what is your name and town that you live in?
yeah, I'm Rebecca Melendez. I live in Kailua-Kona, Keho area, resident of Keho.
And would you please raise your right hand so I can swear you in? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on the matter before the Planning Commission?
Yes, I do.
Okay, please proceed with your testimony.
Okay, thank you. So with regards to the bill 194, and I totally agree that no planning director should not have the full say without the county council being addressed with regards to the zoning being able to extend, right? I just feel like right now, what I'm seeing as a resident, I've been here since 1997, you know, there's, especially after COVID, there's just so much growth happening. And unfortunately, people have been caught taking handouts, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not blaming anybody for this, but I'm saying is we need to have a checks and balances so that it's not, you know, a possibility of a director or somebody, you know, oh, being able to extend something. And then, you know, who's to say, I mean, there's always now going to be a thought if people are going to be taking, you know, money for this extensions, you know, because they've been caught in the past, unfortunately. And I'm just really hoping that, you know, this island, I really feel is losing its feel of aloha. We don't have the roads for so much development, and to have, you know, a director be able to say right away, yes, let's extend you without coming to the city council is not okay. So I definitely agree with that bill of saying no, it's not okay for him to be able to do this, because, you know, it actually helps the community feel, especially like myself, feel more protected, that people aren't taking handouts because they can't have a yes right away, you know. That's something that I wanted to say for that one. And then there was another one on the agenda here. And if it's been taken back, then please, yeah, let me know. So there's the applicant Sunshine Holdings with regards to, oh no, excuse me, applicant was unfinished business number 1, Dwayne Pravalho. It's acres, 20 acres, and then it says into a village, a commercial village. So I think this goes back to my concern about the fact that, you know, this was agricultural land, and there are so many. I have actually documented over 300 acres that are currently in application process. A lot of them was agricultural land that's now going into wanting to become commercial. And the Big Island has a lot of vacant land, has a lot of agriculture, land. But the thing is we don't have the roads for a lot of the commercial business that I'm seeing that these agriculture lands want to turn into. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't have the roads. The traffic is already so bad, and the parking in town. Like, I'm wanting that to be really a concern, and I just want to know that you all really are seeing what's happening to this island in a very fast way after COVID. After COVID, it's exploded. So these applicants that are turning their agriculture land to commercial, I just want you to really look at the roads and the traffic and how this island is changing. So just to give more aloha for the fact that we do need affordable housing for locals, and we don't need really
I'll ask you to
any more
briefly
commercial.
summarize.
Okay, yeah, that's about all I gotta say for that. Thank you.
Mahalo for your testimony. Okay, is there any other testimony at this time?
We
Anything on
have-
Zoom?
Yes, we have Simi McMichael registered to testify.
Okay.
Simi, if you could turn on your camera and unmute, that would be great. Thank you. Simi, are you able to hear us?
Perhaps we can continue moving on and Simi can testify at the time of the agenda item. Do we know which agenda item she's registered to testify for?
Yes, bill number 94 and the planning director's report.
Okay. Yeah, if we can't get through, give it another little bit, but if we can't get through, we'll just move on and take the testimony at the time of the agenda item. Okay, with that, we can continue with item number 3. Oh, okay. Okay. We have to take this hasn't happened to us before, where we've been ahead of schedule, but we have to take a brief recess until 9:30 to wait for that time when the item number 3 has been agendized for. So we'll be back at 9:30 for agenda item number 3. Mahalo.
Hello, Maya.
Hi, Simi. We're on a short recess. We'll return at 9:30.
Okay, but you can hear me now.
Yes. Great.
Okay.
Thank you so
I
much.
was like, oh my God, I can't get in there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Can you hear me now too?
Hi, Claire. Yes, I can hear you. We're on a recess, so we'll resume at 9:30.
And so what time is it right now?
9:24.
Okay, is there any way I can get, I don't know how much battery I have. I thought I had the cord to my other thing. Is how many are there to testify on Zoom?
Only 2 at the moment. So
Okay,
we'll return at 9:30.
And then we'll go first. Is that right?
Yes, the chair will determine that.
Okay, usually they do that. Okay, all right, then I'm only second. Okay, great. All right. I'm just gonna stay online, of course, as I'm driving and getting to where I'm gonna get. Okay, all right. All right, thank
Okay,
you so much.
thank you.
Yeah.
Simi and Claire, I'm going to mute and turn off your video just until we resume the meeting. So just a heads up.
Okay, all right, that's good. Should I'll mute mine I'll mute the video and then I just keep my video on me on, is that right?
Yeah, I'll turn off the video and audio for both of you, and then when it's your time to testify, that's when you can turn it back on.
Okay, so I should turn off both the video and the audio.
Yes, please.
Okay,
We'll let
all
you
right.
know. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you so much.
Hi, Micah. We're on a recess and we're returning at 9:30.
Okay, thanks.
Just letting you know. Thank you. And I'm going to turn off your video just until we start the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
we're gonna come back to order and we're gonna take new business. So the first new business to discuss, applicant is Sunshine Holdings LLC, PL-REZ 2022-00000032, application for a 5-year time extension to condition D, final subdivision approval, amend condition E, restrictive covenants, and condition F, restrictive covenants to prohibit condominium property regime, CPR, to delete the requirement to provide a copy of the recorded covenant prior to the receipt of final subdivision, deletion of condition G, requirements of conservation plans to be filed with the Kona Soil and Water Conservation District, amendment to condition I, drainage study, addition of a condition requiring compliance with chapter 10 of the Hawaii County Code, erosion and sediment control, deletion of condition J, archaeological survey, and amendment to condition M, fair share requirements of ordinance number 9891, which reclassifies 21.353 acres of land from an agricultural 20 acres to agricultural 5 acres zone district. Subject property is located at 73-1735 Coloco Drive, approximately 720 feet southeast of its intersection with Coloco Loa Place, Coloco Mauka Subdivision, Coloco, North Kona, Hawaii, TMK 373025, parcel 12. At this time, we proceed with public testimony for the agenda item. Do we do public testimony now or announce the recusal first?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Kanua has an announcement.
I'd like to recuse myself from this agenda item due to my property being on Kolokolo.
Mahalo. With Commissioner Kanuha's recusal, we have lost quorum for the meeting. So for this agenda item, so we will not be able to discuss it, but we can still take public testimony at this time. Mr. Van Pernis, if you'd like to step forward. Would you please raise your hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on the matter before the Planning Commission?
I do.
Mahalo. And for the record, please state your name and the town you live in and proceed with your testimony.
Mark Van Burns. I live in Kona in Makale Estates near the subject property.
Please proceed.
Pending before you is the application Sunshine Development for further delay of their predecessor's proposed subdivision and the insulting and elimination, reduction of conditions that benefit the public that were determined 25 years ago. Although that elimination or reduction maybe just be a throwaway to get the time extension. They've already had 25 years of extensions. The proposed development uses the same roads as many other subdivisions that have been approved in our belt. During that 25 years of extension, there was increase in population of approximately 200,000 or 200%, excuse me. And there has been the school kids concrete at the intersection of Coloco and Mamawa for the school buses. There have been many B&Bs and other subdivisions that use Mamawa, including a 25-year extension of the bypass road for Mamawa. There is a serious, and I experienced it, traffic jam on Mamawa near this area, all the way down into Kailua. 25 years, another 5 years. the application should be rejected, although it can keep the zoning, and new application made so current needs can be considered. A traffic study is needed. And perhaps an access road off Coco or a second lane for left turns. Let's see what the public or planning department, plan commission, and kind of constitute this one. We need a true planning commission for the residents of Voice Hawaii, and not a developers accommodation commission. Thank you.
Mahalo for your testimony. That is the only scheduled testifier we have.
Chair, we have some testifiers on Zoom for item 2.
Okay. Who do we have?
Claire, if you could unmute and turn on your audio, you can testify at this time.
Can you let Simi go first? Because I'm just getting ready to park my car. I've got my testimony.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. I'll listen to her and then I'll go, okay?
Okay, thank you. Simi, you can go ahead and turn on your audio and camera and begin your testimony. I'll let you know when your time is up.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey.
Right on. So would
Okay.
you please,
Oh.
please raise your right hand and I'll swear you in.
Okay, aloha.
Okay.
Got it.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on the matter before the planning commission?
Yes.
Mahalo. Please proceed with your testimony.
Okay. Aloha, commissioners. My name is Simi McMichael Kailua Kona, and I would like to support Bill 194. And it should be transparency. I hope you read my testimony, my written testimony. I could not cram it in for 3 minutes. So it's very detailed. And we need to not have the planning director make these approvals or unexpired and go back to the county council for the approval with public knowledge. So I would also like to comment on the agenda referring to the planning director's report on the special management SMA determination and minor permits issued by the planning director. My concern is a development. It's within 300 feet of my property. It's in the National Historic Registry of Kahaluu. The valuation is $242,000. And this is in the special management area. Applied was January 31st, 2022, issued building permit, June 16, 2022. 4.5 months is all it took. No grubbing and grading permit was issued or required. How come? Inadvertent find was the natural spring water and caves were discovered while bulldozing. No reporting, no stopping. Why? This permit, because it's over $500,000, shouldn't it have been required to SMA major permit? Question mark. Shouldn't this have gone through the Leeward Planning Commission for the final decision? Shouldn't there have been a public notice? Why was this submitted only as a residential new construction instead of an SMA and then accepted? This is in the Kahaluu Ahupua'a. TMK is 378-1419. The parcel composed of 2 individual land commission awards, 5687 to Kua'ana and 5687B Kauki Helani, is situated at the northern edge of the Kahaluu Historic District, Shipti Site number 4150. which is listed in the National Register of Historic Places. The project also falls within the coastal zone of the Kona Field System, SHPT Site number 6601, which has also been determined eligible for listing in the National Register of Historic Places. I need to play this tape for you.
Simi, we just want to let you know that we can't see you.
You can hear, hold on.
We can see some kind of shadow, but we can't see.
Hey guys, listen.
But you don't know why I'm calling. The reason I'm calling is that you are getting in the way of a good friend of mine developing the property next to the Sea Spray and the Reef building. This was the best solution to our mutual problem of development behind our properties. I don't know why you're causing such a stink on this, but this was the best solution to have him build two beautiful homes on those two wonderful lots. And you're trying to mess with it. You need to really back off and let this development happen, because it's going to happen regardless. And I'm going to help you do it. You're not making anybody happy. You got my number, Simi. Call me and I'll explain in more detail why you need to step aside on this.
So that's the end of my testimony, and it should be transparent. This is sunshine law. And do what's pono. Go through the commission, you, the Leeward Planning Commission, so everybody has an input on it, and I shouldn't be targeted. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Are there any?
Our next testifier for item 2 is Maki Morinoe. Maki, if you could unmute and turn on your camera, that would be
Actually,
great.
if everybody who's going to testify on Zoom could unmute and turn on their cameras briefly, I can swear everybody in together. That'd be great. Is that everybody?
Yes,
Claire?
that's.
Is Claire
Oh,
intending to
Claire.
testify?
Okay, you should be able to hear me now.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on the matter before the Planning Commission?
Yes.
Okay, mahalo. Maki, please proceed with your testimony. Mahalo.
Thank you for this opportunity. I'm testifying for 2 items, number 2 and number 4 today. I find a lot of
both of those now, or would you like to take number 4 when it comes up?
I'd like to do them now because I have to go to work.
Go ahead. Yes.
All right. Number 2, I have a lot of red flags and concerns. Time extension is one of them. Also agricultural 20 acres being parceled down to 5 acres, rezone those districts. Those are alarming to me because it does change the archaeological survey and other steps to ensure that we have proper management and land usage. So that's very concerning to me. The deletion requirements to provide a copy of recorded information for conservation plans filed with the Kona Soil and Water Conservation District. Also erosion and sediment control issues, and the deletion of condition J, archaeological surveys. Having testified and been witness to many things that are voting in a very to me, a structural process that, you know, I'm kind of echoing Auntie Simi's testimony here, is really backwards thinking, does not provide a regenerative pathway forward for our local people. our land, and even to move us towards circular economy conversations. So there's a lot of red flags for number 2 for me. An increase in traffic and water usage, as well as water filtration. Number 4, I absolutely support Bill 194 to not allow the planning director and its department to extend expired permits. Here in Kona especially, it has reaped a lot of misfortune and havoc on our environment. We are not catastrophically prepared. We have major floodways that are being subject for development, massive amounts of archaeological sites that are being destroyed, as well as not being properly looked at and viewed and archived, and an incredible amount of affordable housing crisis and workforce issues. They all tie in together. So for those reasons, they were stopped for a reason, and we should look at those reasons and revitalize if it is in fact makes any good sense to revisit and allow those permits to pass. Mahalo.
Mahalo. Is Claire our next testifier?
Yes. Claire, if you could unmute and begin your testimony, I'll let you know when your time is up.
Okay, aloha. You guys can hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I'm a traditional cultural customary practitioner. Now, I am really bothered. I'm going to speak on several issues. I supported Bill 194, the SMA issue. This is, and I'm really honest and blunt, and people know that about me. I've been a practitioner of 51 years. This is so alarming to me that we're even in a situation like this when extended permits would even be considered, when you know that the Lee Highway extension would never, cannot happen right now. There's no archaeologicals, that the Kapuna Iwi, the Napua, Naivi, Apau, all ancestors of all ethnicities of bones are just being dug up. There's no route for any of us that understand the severity of generational trauma on our women, on our people, on our babies, on the next many generations of lineal descendants and all descendants, but I'm talking lineal descendants. You are in Ka'alu'u. When we tried to go on and we saw that they had blasted through where the EVR, there's bones there, there's archaeological sites. There is no recourse that we haven't done by calling Planning Commission, we'll be down there. Calling Shifty, we'll be down there. Docare, we'll be down there. Where the hell is people? They're not coming down there on purpose. How much people have been paid off? How many commissioners appointed by Roth have conflict of interest by even buying properties? How many lineal descendants are saying that, oh yes, we can just put the EV in a container? Shame on you. Do you know what that means? Do you know that for us as traditional people, that our babies are directly affected, that I'm helping lineal descendants birth? Our lineal descendants are directly affected by what happens to their EV, the Kukini Wall, and all the burials of there, the conflict of saying that now you're trying to do extending periods with going through this system that's so mafia induced, so corrupt. How can you guys even sit there? I mean, I'm just like appalled that right now, isn't this happening in Honolulu, where people are being investigated on the seats that you guys are holding? What are we supposed to do? If you think that we're going to sit back and not do anything, you're wrong. We have our ancestors that we need to respect. It has a direct effect on our customary practices that are still intact. La'aloa, you have people coming in there to put the bathrooms there. Where's the shit gonna go? Literally, where is it gonna go? I mean, that's even considered that you guys would do a health thing. That's one of Gandhi's main things was to get the shit out of the Gandhi people from sitting next to the Ganges River. What are you guys doing? What are you allowing? How can you extend? How can you have a marketplace now where you're trying to put in Hawaiian culture when you just took the bones and you've got them in containers where you're crushing the bones, when you don't even understand the concepts of lava?
Keeping track of time on this?
No, I have three
Yes,
minutes. There's three things. Got the Kalu tail thing.
I
got the
will
SM.
remind
I got
you
the
that it's
194.
important to be courteous and respectful to the planning commissioners who
Oh,
are
I am
volunteering their
being
time
respectful. Yeah.
to,
What do you
to
got our
serve their
time?
community.
What time?
And it's
Yes, but what
inappropriate to
about?
make accusations about
I'm not making
bribes and all that
accusations.
kind of
I'm just
thing from
saying
this
truth.
volunteer board. So if you'd like to continue, please continue respectfully and please continue on the topic of the agenda item being discussed.
Okay. Yes. So for me, these topics are very relevant because the creation of a Kona community development plan. You know, who was hired by Zendel? Is there development involved with this? You know, now Public Works is allowed to just come in and grub for what, a fine? I mean, or they can get a permit for $80 and then they can grub away acres away or however much. And then when you say no, there's archaeological sites in there, and then we're watching our ancestors' sites, we're watching them get crushed away, and we have gone through every single process that we have access to do and promise them will come and will come. And meanwhile, the bulldozers are just going on and on and on. And that has a deep effect on me and on every lineal descendant, and on their children and on their children's children. So that's why I'm saying this, like, is that how is the Public Works allowing grubbing and grading in special management areas without permits, no posting? You're supposed to post something outside. So nothing's even posted. Where is the environmental assessment and the cultural assessment? Where is that done? And why is that not done?
Thank you. I believe that's all the time that we have.
No, I have 9 minutes because I have, and if you want to do this is all taped too. I have 9 minutes. I'm talking about 3 different topics. So you've now interrupted me respectfully. I'm saying this to you 2 times, and I have 3 minutes for each issue. That is my right. And that is a legal.
Currently addressing agenda item 2, the
but I also
public
have the
testimony
ability
as
because
part of.
Yes.
Pardon me, but as the chair of this meeting, I'd like you to maintain order and listen for a second. We're discussing agenda item 2 at this time. We have 3 minutes to testify on agenda item 2. I believe that 3 minutes
I
is
have
up.
one more thing to. Yeah,
And
I
if
have
you'd
one more
like to
thing
add anything,
because I
you
have
can
to
do
read.
so at the time of the next agenda items, provided
Well,
that
I
testimony
am.
is respectful. Ma'am, if you
Okay,
continue to
I am
interrupt, we will have no choice but to remove you from the meeting. I hope that you can
Okay, I have
understand that
one more
it's.
thing. Yes, I have one more thing. When we have testified before, we had that option when you have 3 things so that we don't have to call back in, so that we don't have to wait, because we too have families and children and jobs, you know, and we take time, and this is not a paid thing. So I only have one
Correct.
more
And
thing.
Fortunately, has
So
passed
I have
already.
one more thing to add. Can I just add the last thing instead of you and I going
And
back
so
and
this will be concluded. And if you'd like to add anything to the subsequent agenda items, you're welcome to do so at that time. But for
Well,
now,
I only have so
that
much
concludes it.
time
And
on
I
my
will ask the
battery.
host to
Can I?
mute you at this time. Mahalo. Okay, are there any other testifiers on this agenda item?
No testifiers for item 2.
Okay. So that would then conclude agenda item 2, since we don't have a quorum to act on it. And we will continue with agenda item number 3. The applicant is Gretchen I. Watson Cabe, PL-SPP-2022-000014, application for a special permit for a home occupation to allow the use of a portion of an existing farm dwelling as a real estate office on approximately 75 square feet or larger of a larger 5.16 acre property within the state land use agricultural district. The subject property is located at 75-1100 Kamalani Street, approximately 0.4 miles east Mauka of its intersection with Mamalahoa Highway. Portion of Hinaloli First, Hinaloli First, Pua'a First, North Kona, Hawaii, TMK 7-5-013, parcel 050. We'll start off with a staff presentation by Clinton Mercado. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Aloha. Excuse me. Thank you, Maya. All right, so we'll begin our presentation with the location map for Gretchen I. Watson Cabello. Sorry, technical difficulties. Oh, okay, so the location map basically it's outlined in blue, the subject property. Consists of 5.16 acres located off of Kamalani Street in Oluoloa, which is located in North Kona. The property is located approximately 0.4 miles Mauka from the Mamaloho Highway intersection. Again, the property is in outline in blue. The applicant is requesting a special permit to allow a home occupation for a real estate office establishment within a 75 square foot portion of an existing 2,696 single family dwelling, 2-bedroom. The real estate office space will be used primarily to communicate with clients electronically. In-person meetings will be conducted at the respective locations of real property interest. Additionally, the request space is currently being used to maintain sales and marketing purposes of the applicant's existing farm operation, which is located on the subject property. The purpose of the request is the current COVID-19 pandemic caused the applicant an involuntary retirement due to the downsizing of a corporate office where the applicant conducted her business. As a result, the applicant is requesting a special permit to allow a home occupation for the sole purpose of maintaining her real estate broker license for 30 years now to assist family and friends interested in buying real estate. Further, it would not allow the applicant, further, it would allow the applicant to transact her real estate business and to operate the coffee farm business without leaving the property. Here is the county zoning map showing that, again, outlined in blue, the property is zone Ag 5 acres. This is the state land use boundary map, also agricultural, with a little bit of conservation at the top, which is in blue. For the general plan, Lupe land use plan allocation guide map, the property is considered imported ag land. Which is shown in green also, and with a little bit of conservation towards the top. This is the site plan from the applicant, just basically showing the existing dwelling, existing storage. This is an aerial shot of the property. The blown up version to the right, showing the property, the house is located in the middle. Towards the north is Kamalani Street, and to the left To the west is the a side street. Kiola. And then, of course, the surrounding properties, which consist of agricultural and residential use. Their Hurrah driveway is coming off Kamalani Street. Here is a couple images. One of the intersection of Mamalahoa Highway and Kamalani Street looking south. The street is on the left-hand side. And the right photo is an image of the existing driveway to the property looking towards Mauka from Kamalani Street. The final screen is the planning director's recommendation. The planning director recommends an approval of the special permit request. Thank you very much, Chair.
Mahalo. See the applicant has stepped forward. Would you please state your name and the town you live in? Mahalo. And would you mind raising your right hand so I can swear you in? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on the matter before the planning commission?
I do, and hope it won't be as contentious as that last. Still trying to do part.
Mahalo. Mahalo. No worries. Yeah, please let us know if you have anything that you'd like to add to the county's presentation.
No, not at all.
Okay.
You did an excellent job. Okay, totally my position. Thank you.
And you've received the background report and recommendations by the county,
Yes, sir, I did.
and you agree with them, all the
Yes, sir.
conditions? Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions for staff or for the applicant? Yes.
I just have one question. So in the real estate office, is it just merely going to be a real estate office, or are you going to be conducting coffee business from there? Or?
It's my coffee business,
Business. Okay.
real estate. I
Like
mean,
an
one
office.
same laptop, same computer,
Like
all of that. Yes,
So it isn't like a retail
not at
component?
all.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody? This sort of brings up an interesting question to me. Why is this necessary? For her to do this in her house? I'll let the planning director.
Thank you, Chair Bertuzzi. We've had that same comment. In fact, we kind of guessed that we might get that same comment today. State law 205 -2 and 205 4.5 do not allow for home occupations in the state land use agricultural district. So they do require a special permit, even though we may see them as very minimal impact, if any. We've, not this administration, but a prior administration tried several times to have the law changed to include home occupation within Chapter 205, and every time met with opposition and did not pass. So until that actually gets permitted through the state land use district, we need to go through this special permit.
And is there a definition of home occupation that qualifies this? I mean, what my thinking is with COVID and the amount of work from homers, everybody's in home occupation.
Correct.
If I go home at night from my job and I've got some things I gotta get done for the next day and I work at home, do I need a special permit for that?
Well, that's the tough call, right? I mean, if we receive a complaint, we have to go out and enforce it. If we don't, we're not going to go out and look for that. Unfortunately, we do get complaints. Most times people come in not out of a complaint because, again, very minimal impact. Most people don't know what's happening, but they'll come in because of a requirement. They need to show that this is their business address, or that a bank needs verification, this is permitted to be able to give a loan. But again, we have attempted to try to change state law on this matter because of the fact that many people currently do operate home occupations in the state land use act district.
Is there a home occupation definition?
We have one in our zoning code.
And that's a county code?
Correct.
Is there one in the state land use?
I have the definition.
I'm
And that's
sorry.
from the county definition? What is that?
Okay. Home occupation means any activity intended to provide income that is carried on within a dwelling, within an accessory structure to a dwelling, or on a portion of a building site used principally for dwelling purposes.
And then, not that it has an exact bearing on this, but can we amend our definition of home occupation and have that fit with the state land use boundary laws, so that we're clarifying that if someone's using home as an office or something for work that's done outside, as in this case where she's doing.
May I interject?
Sure.
In my research as a licensed professional, I assumed the home occupation was allowed based on other islands, home occupation, and have applied for a home occupation permit. It was initially approved, provided I get a special variance. When I researched the matter further, ag land falls under certain provisions of the state ordinance, which allows certain uses, but a real estate office is not allowed. It specifically states that real estate offices are not allowed. And that's why I had to go in for a special permit. So it was a state ordinance.
Right. And it's specifically for real estate.
It prohibits.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I see where you're trying to go with that, and we have conflicts all the time within our code and state law, but state law will trump when it comes. So, we actually have a meeting today with the Land Use Commission staff, and so that's an item we could definitely bring up and see.
It'd be a great one to bring up.
Especially with the, recent COVID event.
The work from home trend,
Right.
To try to stay on top of that. And it may be something that could be included in the future code revision.
Yeah. And maybe, they would be comfortable with a certain size, because their concern is the dwelling is a farm dwelling.
Yeah.
It should be accessory to a farming type.
Which this sounds like.
Okay. At this time, there are no further questions. We can allow public testimony on this agenda item. Is there any public testimony for this agenda item?
No public testifiers for item 3.
Okay. With that, we have a motion to close public testimony.
Yeah, I did want to
Motion
testify
by
on that item, but you
Commissioner
guys have knocked
Paishon
it out.
Dewar.
So
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, public testimony. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, public testimony for this agenda item is closed. So if there's no further discussion, or we can make a motion and then we can have a discussion. Go ahead,
Let's make a motion, Chair.
please.
I move that the application for special permit docket number 2022-014 be approved based on the planning director's recommendation, which shall be adopted.
Second.
Mahalo. We've got a motion by Commissioner Paishon Dewar, second by Commissioner Kanuha. Is there any discussion? Okay. We'll take a roll call vote.
Thank you. Planning Commissioner Shandor,
Aye.
Planning Commissioner Kanuha.
Aye.
Planning Commissioner DeFranco,
Aye.
Planning Commissioner De La Cruz.
Yeah.
And, sorry, Chairman Betusa.
Aye.
Thank you. The ayes have it. 4.
Mahalo. You'll be notified of the commissioner's decision in writing. Thank you for your patience.
Is it okay now for me to consider it approved so I can remove my PO box to my street address, please?
Yes.
I appreciate it. Thank you
Yes.
very much for your
Yeah.
efforts.
Mahalo.
Mahalo. We're making me smile. Okay, terrific. We will take 5 minutes, 10 minutes? 5-minute break. We'll be back at 10:15. Return to order. Thank you. Okay. Next item under new business, the initiator is the County Council, Bill number 194, PL-CCI 2022-00000002. An ordinance amending Chapter 25, Article 2, Division 4 of the Hawaii County Code 1983, 2016 edition as amended relating to conditions on change of zone actions. The purpose of this amendment is to clarify that the planning director may not extend the time allowed to satisfy conditions within a change of zone ordinance unless specifically authorized by the county council. The Windward Planning Commission considered this bill on October 16th, October 6th, sorry. Now we'll have a staff presentation by Jessica Andrews.
Chair, is there public testimony?
Well, according to our agenda item, we're going to do public testimony after the presentation by council.
Thank you. Okay. My name is Jessica Andrews, and I'm here to introduce or to present Bill 194 relating to conditions on change of zone actions. The Hawaii County Council has introduced Bill number 194, which seeks to amend Chapter 25, the zoning code, Article 2, Division 4 of the Hawaii County Code 1983, 2016 edition as amended, relating to conditions on change of zone actions. The purpose of this bill is to clarify that the planning director may not extend the time allowed to satisfy conditions within a change of zone ordinance unless specifically authorized by the county council. Bill 194 seeks to amend Article 2, Division 4 of Chapter 25, conditions on change of zone as follows. Section 25.244B, paraphrasing the changes. The changes proposed for this section include modifying language to clarify that requests to change or alter conditions of any change of zone ordinance shall be processed in the same manner as a new zone change. And furthermore, new proposed language indicates that unless specifically authorized by the county council, extensions of time to satisfy conditions of a change of zone ordinance may not be allowed by the planning director. And here you see the strikeouts or language that is struck out is proposed to be removed, and language that is underlined is proposed to be added. So to summarize, striking out changes or alterations of, and adding requests to change or alter the conditions of any change of zone ordinance shall be processed in the same manner as a zone change unless the council authorizes the changes or alterations to be made by the director. New language is, unless specifically authorized by the council, extensions of time to satisfy conditions may not be allowed by the director. And striking out the last section, which addressed the filing fee, and that will actually be created as a new section, as you'll see in this next section. So the section 25.244C changes for this section include the deletion of all current language, the failure to fulfill change of zone conditions within specified time limitations, and the addition of submittal instructions for a change of zone amendment, which is currently found in the previous section. So that part about the filing fees is going to replace this section here, which is entirely deleted. And the new language is A request for any change or alteration of conditions shall be submitted in writing to the director in lieu of the application required for an applicant-initiated change of zone. The request shall be accompanied by a filing fee of $250. This is the same language, it's just in a new location. And section 25-244D, the draft bill proposes to add this new section to clarify that if the applicant fails to fulfill any conditions of the change of zone ordinance within the specified time limitations, the planning director or county council may initiate the process for enactment of an ordinance reverting the affected property back to its original zoning designation or a more appropriate zoning designation in accordance with section 25-243. And the exact language is as follows. If the applicant fails to fulfill any conditions of the zone change within the specified time limitations, the director or council may initiate the process for enactment of an ordinance reverting the affected property back to its original zoning designation or a more appropriate zoning designation in accordance with section 25-243. And finally, the director's recommendation. The planning director recommends that the planning commission send a favorable recommendation of Bill 194 to the county council. And with that, I'll hand the floor back to the chair.
Mahalo. And we have with us Councilmember Holeka Inaba. Step forward. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on the matter before the planning commission? Mahalo. Please proceed with your presentation.
Aloha kakahiaka, Chair Petusik, Vice Chair DeFranco, members of the Leeward Planning Commission. We are here today discussing Bill 194, which I introduced as part of the process. We hear it first in the Planning Committee of the County Council, and then it's referred to both planning commissions, to the department, planning commissions, and then back to us so we can get your folks' input on this legislation and any legislation affecting this part of the code. So 2 weeks ago, I presented the same bill to the Windward Planning Commission, who, as you know, forwarded a positive recommendation on the matter. And what we have here before us is really this idea of increasing transparency and accountability. Transparency perhaps on the county side, accountability on applicants and developers who come before you folks and the county council seeking rezoning. So oftentimes for smaller rezoning projects, we're going to see a 5-year time frame for subdivision approval or completion of all conditions of approval within a rezoning ordinance. They could be longer depending if it's a big project, but what we see right now, and this is not a practice just of the current planning department, but one that goes back 40 years, is insertion of language within each rezoning bill that grants the authority to the planning director to grant an administrative extension of time. And that's pending, you know, whether it was unforeseen circumstances, there is a criteria within the department that the department uses to vet whether or not they want to grant the administrative extension. What is being attempted here is to not allow that language to be inserted into bills anymore. If an applicant comes before you folks and before the council and is agreeing to complete conditions within a certain amount of time, and we look back at the ordinance, we should be able to know if it says 5 years from today, that 5 years from today, conditions are complete. We currently don't get reports, and it's not required that reports be submitted to you folks, to the council, letting us know which projects receive administrative extensions. But those extensions are granted, and it kind of puts us in a funky place when you look at ordinances and whether they're technically stale, and I think we're going to have a conversation about stale ordinances, or if the department did in fact grant. We're currently having internal communication with Corporation Counsel as well, because in some instances we found that it's been the practice that administrative extensions are being granted after the 5-year period has already actually come to an end. So it's really to clean things up, and I've had good conversation with planning staff, Corporation Counsel. Also want to present the opposite, or the devil's advocate on this bill, and it's for those, for example, of a small family who comes for a rezoning, they're granted 5 years, and Chair Ratusik actually just kind of walked this scenario. We walked it through together outside. That the person who comes for the rezoning passes away within the first 2 years, and the project isn't able to move forward, conditions aren't met. In a situation like that, it would make sense, or it would be nice, I would say, to have that option of an administrative extension that the director alone could grant. The question is, where do we draw the line, and who do we draw lines for? And in being fair, the point of the bill is to know, like I said, if it's 5 years, or if we know it's going to take longer than 5 years, if it's going to be 7 years, because things move so slowly sometimes here at the county, let's give them 7 years. But when we look back at a rezoning ordinance in our county records, we can know for sure when something becomes stale. And I don't want to use the word expired, because Corporation Counsel and I also had this discussion where, say somebody does get the rezoning, we approve it, they've completed some of the conditions of approval, and they're doing certain activities now that wouldn't allow them to go back into ag, but they have technically lapsed because they didn't meet all the conditions which allow them to keep or continue with, let's say, a commercial zoning. You're in this limbo area. The department can maybe speak a little bit more to that. So it's a tricky topic, I would say. I've also provided within the file today proposed language that might clarify the intention. You folks wouldn't amend the bill, but could make an appropriate motion if you folks like that bill, that wording more, so that when it comes back to us, we have a better understanding of the conversation that has gone on here. But I'm happy to answer any questions. And again, it's really just a matter of transparency and accountability, and the fact that we don't want, not everyone, but some people come here for rezoning simply for increased value on their land, and they have no intention to carry out conditions of approval. And when the 5-year lapses, they come back to the administration, and currently we have no oversight and no knowledge at all of who gets extensions and for how long and for what reason.
Mahalo. Are there any questions from commissioners to staff or the applicant?
Okay. I want to say, I know this is well needed, I believe. There's been a discussion in between all of us for certain things with SMA extensions that have been coming up, for getting time extension on things that you haven't fulfilled 20 years past, and there needs to be some accountability. So thank you for bringing this forward.
Just to clarify also that this relates to zoning
Yes,
changes,
zoning.
not SMA, but
In the grand scheme of
yeah.
things.
Okay. Any other questions from commissioners? Okay, at this time, I will have public testimony, do public testimony, and then if there are any questions that come up after that, we can have you come back up, Councilmember Inaba, and have that discussion. Okay. First up is Mark Van Furnace. Would you please raise your hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on the matter before the Planning Commission?
Yes, I do.
Okay, please proceed with your testimony on agenda item 4.
After extensive research, my Bill 194 corrects legalities, makes delays transparent, subject to public input, and places a decision on changing the time and conditioning ordinance on the maker of the ordinance, being the county council. This is modern land planning. It best serves the residents, so that's why I submitted written testimony referring to all those things. And I mentioned that I could give examples of the problems created by recent applications. I could cite those applications. I'll be happy to answer any questions in that regard. It has been reported falsely, I think, that according to the records going back all the way to planning directors, Mr. Fuki, that only 5-year extensions have been handed out for free. But you know, from your agendas that that's not true. You go 5, 15, 25, 30, 40-year extensions. Bill 94 will help unclog your agendas. Those unreasonable requests. And also help to eliminate situations like every single application for delay be made by Mr. Fuki as a land planning consultant has been granted and without any showing of conditions beyond the control of the applicants as ordinance requires. So I hope you will approve 194 and support it. Thank you.
Mahalo. Next, we have Colin Kiola Childs. Since he's stepped out, I'll proceed with. Please come on up.
That's all right. I got married 36 years ago. I got saddled with that.
Okay, would you please state your name and the town that you live in for the record?
Aloha, I live in Kona, off Locker.
And the name again?
David Blansett, Madam.
Mahalo. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on the matter before the planning commission?
I do.
Okay, please proceed with your testimony.
Well, two things. My wife dragged me down here today and I'm running cold, so please bear with me. But I not only support the councilman's changes to this statute, but I also point out some additional things that I hadn't heard yet since I wasn't here for the whole year. The current administration has taken the position that if a zoning extension is not in front of council, then it's not subject to a contested hearing. That's very important to us in the public because some of these have lasted 3-4 decades and zoning has changed considerably over the period of time that's happened. And in addition, not bringing it into this leaves it in the shadows, if you understand what I'm saying. And for example, if you take a look at, I was down the other day at the Judd Trail. The Judd Trail is an example of our failure to the people of this island and the people of Hawaii generally. The Judd Trail is a trail that was built to go all the way from here to Hilo. And it was authorized at a time and began work, not finished, at a time when the Queen's Edict went in that said that that property belonged to the state. And it isn't the trail that belongs to the state, it's the land. So that trail, even if they build over it, still belongs to the state. And even in that position, they talked about streamlining, which is where we got these concepts of moving things over to the administration to approve. It was streamlining, and they were warned that that's open to a lot of problems. It's problematic on its very nature because of the way that it takes it out of the realm of the legislative plans. So what happened in Judd Trail is there's 75 feet remaining of that trail. Go down there, go down and be ashamed. I was ashamed. 75 feet of that trail and the magnificent building of a double wall trail that was a road. And the rest of it is owned by these, they call them mini farms or something, or They have a word for it that's very cheap, but that's what's left of it. And the bonds are gone. The bonds were negotiated back by the state down from $225,000 to eventually $50,000 that was supposed to be in the bank. I don't think there's any money left. And now as taxpayers, if we want to restore those trails, we're going to pay for them. But the land wasn't even set aside, so now it's going to have to go somewhere it wasn't supposed to be in the first place. That's a shameful thing. It's shameful. Now, as far as the lapsing of these things go, if it's not affordable, first of all, we're not even just talking about instances where they're asking for this because they're allowed a 10-year period or something to do it. They let it lapse, okay? They don't get anywhere down the road. They lapse, and it's called land banking in anywhere else that you go in the world. It's called land banking. It's speculating with the Hawaiian people's land. It's wrong. So I can't support the council on enough of this. And what's happening right now is embarrassing to all of us. We're losing our trails.
That was 3 minutes. I'll ask you to summarize briefly for 30
Summarize
seconds.
briefly, the importance of this bill can't be underestimated. Okay, the importance, the protection of the people of Hawaii, and I'm talking about the roaming rights. There's no, they say there's, let me put this in. They say there are no roaming rights in Hawaii, but there are. These trails are protected forever. That is the only remaining roaming right of a Hawaiian. So when we look at these things, the zoning changes, in summary, the zoning changes, the conditions change, and what do they do over this period? They go through these processes, and each time they come in, they deteriorate what the original proposal even was. You'll see them change them to vacation rentals now. Wasn't even anticipated 40 years ago when they put this application in. So in closing, I can't support this enough, and I have to disagree with the council, and then I'll always get that. I'm a lawyer. I'm a lawyer, should disclose that. I'm supposed to disclose it. I disagree with council's assessment of what lapsing means, and we will talk about that too, and you'll hear me at the next hearing.
Mahalo. Appreciate your time coming out. Next is Colin Kiola Childs. Mahalo. Please state your name and town you live in.
I'm Colin Kiola Childs. I live near Hololoa in the Waiaha.
Mahalo. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth on the matter before the Planning Commission?
I do.
Mahalo. Please proceed.
I would like to add a few cautionary perspectives in your treatment of and your recommendations on this bill. I do agree that there should be some tightening up of practices and some language. I would like to relay a concern that, for example, using a 5-year basis, which has been the tradition of the period for performance, if that is 5 years or anything close to it becomes a council-only decision, you are going to, in many cases, prevent many well-intentioned and able developers from executing their plans because of the exigencies that come up, whether it's a disease wave or a tsunami or other factors, natural disasters, state and historic preservation staffing problems that prevent applications for the dutiful, proper, complete work to be done, finding the archaeologists to even prepare that. Took me 5 years to go through it for a driveway, shared driveway with the residents, to go from hiring the archaeologists through shifty reviews just in the past 5 years. So fortunately, we and our neighbors didn't need to have the zoning approval to build a shared driveway, but that took 5 years. Now, even if Shifty beefs up their staff, then there's other environmental practical issues that come up. You can have responsible developers that cannot complete proper conditions above board. And if they, within that time frame, given what happens out here in the middle of the Pacific with all the factors that are involved, and if they get to 3 to 4 years, they basically, based on this proposal, do not have zoning. They're financial underwriters that are proposing to prepare more extensive plans, to provide site work. They're saying, hey, you're got to go back to the well. You don't have, there's no custom, there's no culture that you're going to be approved. You go back into the firestorm again. We're not going to loan you the money you need to carry on because we don't know you're going to get it approved. right now, there's a reasonable expectation, if you follow and play by certain rules, that the department director will generally provide us a period to go further. So I would like to caution you in deciding that if you want to throw it entirely into council, and if it's a short time frame, you're actually going to be counterproductive and add more problems for more paperwork to push it. Also, if you extend it to 10 years, if the council says, well, you can have 10 years instead of 5, you're not getting anything better than what you have today with 5 years that the director can decide versus getting to 10 years. I would like to recommend in closing that you have put in your practice in the bills to have eliminate the problem of post expirations being granted by the administration after the 5 years, that the bills be amended to put in specific dates, but 5 years from the effective date of this rezoning ordinance is the limit for whatever number of years you may choose, is the limit for administrative extension. It may be that administrative extensions ought to be shorter. Like, I'll pick, just for sake of conversation, not as a recommendation, 3 years. And so that after that becomes 6 years, then council decides, but they have to perform reasonably within a shorter period of time of accountability. And maybe the director provides a report to council of every extension granted with its reasons. And that might actually be more productive in keeping a shorter string for that and still giving council a review potential in less than 10 years. Thank you.
Mahalo. And are there any Zoom testifiers?
Yes, we have Claire ready to give testimony on this item. Claire, you have 3 minutes, so if you could unmute yourself and turn on your camera, that would be great. Claire, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. First of all, I want to apologize for that earlier, but there's a lot of emotion behind when I testify because I know the effect that it has on our babies. And it's 51 years I've been helping babies be born, and the families. So I really want to support the bill that Holeka did. He's an amazing young man, and I think he sees things on both sides. I think that this total transparency is what we're asking for, because if permits have been extended, have run out already, then they need, and they were stopped, for example, because there's not the roadways, there's not the structures that we need in place, then they need to be in place. And the assessments of a place, especially of Elite Drive, of the largest burial, the bones and the archaeological sites need to be respected, because I was up in the military working on this issue because I'm a cultural advisor to them too. And NAGPRO listened to a whole show, a whole talk and PowerPoint on NAGPRO, and I'm very aware of it because I worked with burial rights with Native Americans in the 80s. But it's a federal law that these laws are upheld. It's a state law. There's HR, I think it's 6E, HRS 6E. There's laws already in place. And so we just need to make sure that we have transparency and that we don't hurt. For me, there's too many Native people without being able to have land, being crammed into Hawaiian homelands, the lots getting smaller, and they're on the streets, and it affects drugs and alcohol and all kinds of dysfunction within the families. And these are our people. So I just wanted to thank Holeka and the commission for, I think that it's a well-balanced bill. And I think that it's something that should go through and would be the result of more harmony between all of us, because we surely don't want to divide and conquer us. We want all of us to be living in harmony here in the islands. So thank you for your time.
Mahalo, thank you for your testimony.
Okay. Have a great day, you guys.
You too. Okay, is there anyone else on Zoom?
No public testifiers at this time.
Okay, and no one else in person? Okay. With that, can we have a motion to close public testimony for this agenda item?
Motion to close.
Motion to close
Second.
by Commissioner Kanuha, second by Vice Chair DeFranco. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Councilmember Nava, would you mind stepping back up? Is there anything that you would add following public testimony?
I think the points Mr. Childs brought up are valid points. Like we talked about, standard practice being 5 years right now. I think we as a planning, as the county, as the planning department, really need to help guide, because if some applicants come forth and don't really understand the scope of work that it takes to meet the conditions, I do hope that the department provides guidance, and if they know it's going to take 7 years, then put 7 years into the rezoning bill. I don't want it to be 5 or 10, like Mr. Child said, just because, again, it wouldn't accomplish what we're trying to get here at. What we're trying to get here at is a reasonable amount of time, and come to this process when you're ready to commit to completing conditions. If you're not ready and you know that the department's recommending 7 years, or it's going to take 7 years, then don't come here and waste your time and waste our time. Only come when you're ready and you understand and you know what it's going to take. Not everyone knows what it's going to take, though, is my point. So if somebody does need 7, then give them 7. But we're not gonna, it's irresponsible to just go and give everybody 10 now instead of 5. So I don't support that idea that everybody would get 10 now. It's look at the project, give a reasonable amount of time. Technically, an applicant is committing to meet whatever time frame is in the bill. The fact that some people bank on getting an administrative extension later for whatever reason they're going to tell the department, not sure that's in the best interest of our community. And let's see. I think that's all I'll say right now. I can answer any questions.
And Mr. Childs brought up a great point that, I thought about after, which, more or less banking. But if we do have kind of what you guys discussed, if there's an illness or something and they do have approval, is there going to be a part of is there language that is able to help people with the right interest on their rezone? I mean, it's hard to speculate what is what you can say. Just like you said, you can say whatever you want to say to be able to get that. But with people good-hearted and true nature, that are here for the community, for the better, I would say. Can you hear me?
No.
Better?
Mine's pretty loud.
Yes.
Commissioner Kanoha, I'd like to respond if I may.
Yes.
And of course, we want to help our local families, and we don't want to put them in a harder place if they experience hard times. But again, where do we draw the line? And what is fair for one is fair for all. So it just calls into question our current practices that we have no idea. And even if we were to implement a reporting process that on a quarterly basis, for example, the council receives a report from the planning department indicating who received administrative extensions and for what. It's after the fact. It's a decision by the planning director at the planning director's discretion versus this whole process that we've all gone through. Sometimes it's annoying, I would say, when we get applicants come through for another 5 years, but they're coming through the process. And it's at that time that the commission and the council can recommend changes or removal of conditions. We have a process. If the director grants the extension, there's no way, we don't amend conditions in the rezoning ordinance. It happens offline between the department and the applicant. And where is the transparency in that? And this again is no attack on the current planning department, because this has just been practice for 4 decades.
Vice Chair DeFranco?
I'm just wondering, it isn't like when they ask for an extension, doesn't the planning director have a criteria that has to be met before he grants the extension? Isn't there a process that's already in place that
Perhaps,
asks those questions?
perhaps
Oh.
Deputy Director Darrow could answer the
Maybe
question
you
on the
can speak to
department's
that.
procedures.
Sure. As mentioned, this practice has been in place for a number of decades. The authority granted to the planning director is given from the council to make this administrative time extension decision. The decision for the director has to meet certain criteria, which is listed in the condition. The director does not have the ability to amend any conditions on his own. The only thing he's allowed to do is the authority given to him through the council in the ordinance, which is to look at if the applicant has met these criteria and to grant him a time extension no more than the original time granted. So that means there is flexibility. In the past, I've seen cases where certain planning directors only grant 1 year. And they say, I will grant you 1 year. I want to see if you do any changes to your project. Then they will come back in if they did, and he will grant the additional time. There have been times where somebody comes in and their project is completely changing, and we'll say, we're not going to grant an administrative time extension. You need to go back to commission and council because your project has completely changed. And so the way that we look at this isn't so much the that we have this power that we can grant this additional time. It's we look at it as a check and balance, that this is yes, the time frame originally granted was 5 years, but there was a condition granted looking at this project at a 10-year time frame, or the possibility of 10 years if they met this criteria. So we take that very seriously. There's a number of, in fact, we were just looking at an application or a time extension letter, an administrative time extension letter that was granted to an applicant. And we looked at it, we addressed each criteria, and we had said, please be aware of this condition that since this time is passed, your fair share is going to increase through the HCPI, the Honolulu Price Consumer Index. So we take that seriously. There was a time in the past where we would CC the commission and council on all our letters, on the time extension requests, on the annual progress report responses. Then I think it just got to be too much where they asked us to stop doing that. But there could be this possibility, as mentioned, of a report, which isn't so, a constant flow of sometimes just minimal response letters. But the way that the condition is worded now, it still gives the ability for the council to not grant it or to grant an administrative, the ability for the planning director to grant an administrative extension.
Right, so just for my clarity, so you already are under the purview of the county council where this decision comes from. right?
That's the
Right.
authority granted to the director.
To do that.
Yes.
And, you know, I have to credit Mr. Van Pernis because in previous times, he always brought up the idea of putting in sunset clauses and things, so we don't get to this place. I guess I'm just wondering if this is already in place. It seems like creating more limitations isn't about transparency. I mean, it concerns me to place 5 years on someone, even though, you know, this is investments in how things go, whether it be pandemics or the global recessions or whatever is happening is huge. And to try to say, okay, 5 years and then that's it, unless, you know, and that's already happening. You know, you put a time limit when you give these things. You put this criteria on them when you give them. But I think one piece that's being left out, which you said has sort of fell through the cracks, is nobody's getting those reports. So nobody knows what's stale, what's being left stale, what's being kept current. I'm just wondering.
If I could just real quickly respond to that. There's been statements made, oh, some people are granted 10, 20, 30-year time extension. That's incorrect. The time extension granted would be the administrative time not to exceed what was originally granted. What happens is when, we'll just use an example. A ordinance is passed, it has a 5-year time to complete construction with an administrative time extension up to 5 years. Once that 10 years passes, there is nothing that can be done on that project. If they come in for a building permit, a grading permit, anything, it will not pass. So it basically just sits. Unfortunately, we don't have a mechanism. There are thousands of permits that are becoming inactive throughout our files that we don't have a process currently that we can say, okay, there's all these guys are coming up on their time frame. We need to go do something. We have so much going on as time goes on currently. But again, that's something that we've looked at in the past trying to implement. But the fact is that what happens is this stays stale for, it could be like the one we saw today, 1998. They got an administrative time extension to 2008. It sat stale for 14 years. Now a new applicant, new buyer has it. They're coming in, but nobody could have done anything after 2008, regardless. They would have been told the same thing. You have to go back to commission. You have to go back to council to either amend the time or to reinitiate a new change of zone, whatever they decide. Anyway, we work hard on those, so I just want to be clear that this, it's unfortunate that it seems like the planning department is just handing these out like, just like Halloween candy or something. That's not the case. And again, once that administrative time extension ends, that project cannot move forward. Thank you.
And many of the cases of extreme delays in these zoning ordinances that have expired have received additional time from these administrative plan approval, administrative extensions, as well as going back to commission and council for additional extensions. So it's not just the planning department that is creating these extensions. They've happened over different administrations, different councils. And I think, to me, a bigger part of how we deal with that is the second part of the requested amendments, which basically indicates that if there's a change in the conditions, one of those conditions being the time it takes to complete any of those conditions, the planning director or council may initiate proceedings to revoke the zoning or recommend more appropriate zoning. And to me, that is what is perpetuating this cycle of stale ordinances with zoning sitting out there, where the zoning is perpetuated, but the conditions have expired. And now what do we do? You know, there's not a clear indication of what should be done then on our side with the council side. I think clarifying those to indicate that, you know, what the procedures must be. They must reapply and examine the existing environmental conditions to recondition that development based on current standards. That kind of clarification in the zoning code would be extremely beneficial, rather than the language of may seek rezoning, which may or may not happen and may or may not be appropriate.
Chair, if I may respond.
Sure.
I agree with that recommendation. Unfortunately, right now, like Deputy Darrow said, we don't have a way to show what is coming up on expiration. So there's no mechanism for us to even try and apply those recommendations, because we don't know what applications are becoming stale, about to become stale, are stale already. And I want to go back to Vice Chair DeFranco's question, so I can just read the language that is typically inserted into the rezoning bills. And it reads, an initial extension of time for the performance of conditions within the ordinance may be granted by the planning director upon the following circumstances. Number one, the non-performance is the result of conditions that could not have been foreseen or are beyond the control of the applicant, and that are not the result of their fault or negligence. That the extension will not be contrary to the general plan or zoning code, wouldn't be contrary to the original reasons for the granting of the change of zone, that it wouldn't be for a period longer than the original period granted. And if an additional time extension past that is required, then they come back to the process. So yes, technically, currently, the county council approves bills that become ordinance with that language in it. So we are authorizing the director's power to do that. The question is, are we okay with that? And if we're not okay with it, is it my duty or the duty of the council at every single application to have to make a motion to remove that condition? Because it's always put in, doesn't matter what, it's always put in. So is it our job to have to try and take it out every single time and have a discussion on that? Or are we gonna be clear? And another thing about administrative extension. So Deputy Darrow said in some cases, a 1-year extension is given, maybe not the full additional 5 years, pending what happens in that first year. That's all the applicant should be getting. Doesn't matter what happens after the first year. The ordinance only allows for 1 administrative extension. So I don't know what has been going on, and that's the point here. If they gave 1 year, they cannot give another year or another 4 years after that. Doesn't matter what has been agreed upon as a result of that first year administrative extension. The ordinance only allows for 1 administrative extension.
If I might ask that our commission make a motion so that we can discuss this without using the fact-finding period, but we can actually discuss our thoughts and perspectives on this. I think I'm, welcome Councilmember Nava to stay up in case there are further questions and information that's needed. But if we could make a motion, and again, just to clarify, the motion that we are discussing, the agenda item that we are discussing, is the language that was submitted to us and reviewed by the planning director that recommends that unless specifically authorized by the council, extension of time to satisfy conditions may not be allowed by the director. So that is the language that we are reviewing today. If anybody would like to make a motion.
So moved.
Okay, the motion to is forward a favorable recommendation. Well, for us, we have to make a motion on the item before we can have an open discussion.
Let's make a motion to make a favorable
Recommendation. All. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Paishan, second by Commissioner Kanuha. And we can open it up for discussion at this point. And my answer to Councilmember Inaba's question of should it be the council's job to review it every time? And I think it is. I think that every development, every permit is unique. It's in a different area. They all have a unique set of environmental concerns, cultural concerns, community concerns. And I don't think there's one formula that we can apply to adequately take into account all of that. And so that's why there's so much discretion that's left up to the county council, to the planning commission to work through these on a case-by-case basis to figure out what is appropriate for this project, for this area, for this community. And I think there are many, many opportunities, many projects where it would not be appropriate to have a blanket administrative time extension by the planning department. But I believe that there are instances where it would be beneficial to a small project, to a small community, that we don't want to add the additional burden of going back to planning commission, to planning committee, to first reading of planning, first reading of county council, second reading of county council, of adding that additional months, the additional time, the thousands and thousands of dollars of planning consultant to go through that. Adding time and money to the process adds to the expense of living in Hawaii. That trickles down to the home buyer, and that makes property more expensive. So, you know, in the event of a project like affordable housing community that is being sued by the neighbor, perhaps in a rich luxury subdivision that don't want their property values to go down, and they have a delay because of that lawsuit, that affordable housing community then has to come back to go through that full process. It just adds time, it adds money, it makes it less affordable. Now, in other situations, it's very applicable. And I think rather than extending those timelines saying, yeah, the process is difficult, but they could have additional time to complete it, I think we want tighter timelines and more information on how every step of the process will be met. And if they can't meet that in order to do a kind of development project, then they don't belong here. And so I would advocate for preserving the council's discretion in deciding which project you think is a good project that you want to give the best opportunity to complete, that has the best community benefit, that you can say, yeah, we want this to move forward and we're willing to give administrative time extension to save you time and money so that you can complete this community benefit project. And in other examples, you look at it and say, you know, you're just trying to make money off of our community and there may be some benefit for it. So we want you to proceed on an extremely tight timeline. And if you can't do it, then you can't do it. And it's done. And you start from square one if you can't do it. So personally, I feel like the language as exists reflects the current process where the council has that authority. And I think that we can all do a better job of making sure that projects are held to a higher standard, and projects that deserve an administrative time extension get it, projects that don't. And that comes from all of our review of these on a case-by-case basis. So to me, preserving that discretion is important. And I agree with the language as written, but I don't agree with the recommended changes where there is no opportunity for an administrative time extension under any circumstances. This is discussion. Yeah.
Yeah, so I agree with you, Mike. I do. I think that, we well-crafted, good that we're having this discussion, good that we're bringing it all up and legit at that. And that's why we have all of these different processes to look at and to review it and to talk about it individually, because each of them are different. So.
Would you like to add a condition of language in there?
No, I mean, like I said, I think that the language that was initially proposed is adequate, where it clarifies that the county council has that authority to delegate that authority or not. They can keep it for themselves if they think the project merits that, which I agree with.
Yeah.
Or if, they exercise their discretion to say that we think this project is so beneficial for the community, we want to give it every opportunity to be successful, that they can then decide to give that administrative time extension. So as it's written and as we're reviewing it, I agree with it.
Okay.
I would take it a step further. Perhaps the better opportunity for that would be in the code revision, which is apparently ongoing, in actually clarifying what happens when these ordinances go stale, rather than the language as proposed about that it may seek initiation of a change of zone.
Chair, just
Yes.
from my understanding, are you proposing that we have a possible code revision discussion at this point? Or how, timeline on that?
I think personally that with the code revisions on a large scale happening, which, we attended the meeting yesterday, the stated purpose is to do a comprehensive overhaul of the code in order to eliminate the piecemeal effect from the changes that have happened over the years. So my concern is that, with a lot of the piecemeal modifications to it happening right before we do the overall code, I think we have that discussion with the overall overhaul of the zoning codes, which we're going ahead now. Now, this one, because it doesn't substantially change the process, it just clarifies the authority. I don't have a problem with this at all.
So if I may respond, and this
Sure.
is what the Windward Planning Commission had the same bill before them. They forwarded a positive recommendation without language change, but with the intention that the director may not, or that language can't be added that grants the planning director that authority. So that's what they did. You folks are gonna do what you're gonna do. When it comes to the language though, about discretion, I guess the question for the commission right now is, every single time somebody comes for a rezoning, you folks are okay with the language automatically being added in that grants the planning director the authority for an administrative extension. And if so, that will assume that the commission, a commissioner or a council member will have to make a motion to have that authority stripped out of every bill every single time it comes through the process.
Response?
Yeah.
Deputy Director Darrow.
So this, the same process would occur also at the commissions. So if an application or a set of conditions comes to the planning commission, before it comes to the council, they can amend the conditions, they can remove the conditions before they forward up whatever that particular bill may be. That currently can happen at this time. I did want to bring up something that we might not have remembered, or maybe some of us weren't here at that time, but back in 2019, some of the members in the audience were present. This was a hot topic, time extensions. There were not only administrative time extensions, but time extensions coming before the commissions and the council. Same concerns, you know, these time extensions just keep coming in and coming in and coming in. What can we do about it? And so I do have my notes from that, and I'd just like to briefly just summarize the options that we had set back then, just so that that's something else we can take into consideration, that this is what we were looking at back then. It was funny because we had different, on the east side and the west side, there were different thoughts on the matter. The east side was looking as if, regarding ordinances, if you're gonna allow the ordinance to be approved, the zoning, then it must be appropriate, and therefore there should be no time on the ordinance. Whereas on the west side, they wanted to make very clear timelines on the ordinance. And so there was that dynamic going on. But when it came to options regarding timing, they were saying to try to, if it was a larger project, to utilize phasing, where this phase had a time, this phase, instead of a 20-year project, it would phase out. There would be, again, no administrative time extension, but add reasonable time to complete. That was one of the options. Do not grant an administrative time extension unless there has been progress on the project, such as securing plan approval, the building permits, or beginning construction. And that could be a definition of substantial commencement. Lastly, the condition ordinance is to start the timeline after permitting has gone through a particular process, such as plan approval or a building permit. So that would be when the time starts. And this was even discussed at council at the time. But the other option that was brought forth that Barbara mentioned earlier from a member in the audience was that a deadline, like what you were saying, once that time is passed, that particular permit or ordinance is dead. There's no reversion, there's no, it's just dead. They got to come back in, go through the whole process again.
That's really untrue.
Order.
Anyway, so those were the options that were brought up back then. Nothing was actually forwarded from that discussion. But again, this is Councilman Inaba's bill is attempting to address this issue that has been a hot topic for some period of time.
I have a
Yes,
question. Thank you.
please.
Councilmember Nava, thank you for your work on this bill. So I, appreciate all of the work that staff put together to bring forth all of these reports. And I also appreciate the public testimony, written and oral. So just scrolling through some of the written testimony, I noticed one of the submitted written testimonies does not favor and opposes this bill. So more from a devil's advocate perspective, this person asserts that, if this bill were to pass, that, already Hawaii County is known to be, highly over-regulated, quote unquote, onerous regulatory environment, and that makes some assertions that it's going to have possible great effect on local economy. So what's your perspective on that? I mean, you have tremendous responsibility. We as volunteer commissioners have tremendous responsibility to the public, and one of the considerations should be local economy.
I might take a guess who submitted that written testimony. Most of the testimony received were from citizens, everyday citizens like the ones who testified live today. That came from an industry, a resort industry association. And I would disagree because, again, what is the point of the bill? It's for transparency and it's for accountability. That's all it's for. So the question before us as a commission right now is, are we going to allow continued practice of time extension? So for example, if it's 10 years that someone's given, they're going to get another 10 years without any review. I don't think any of us can picture what it'll look like 10 years from now, much less 20 years from now, if an administrative extension like that is given. And I don't believe that it's a matter of economies. It's a matter of when you come before this body and the county council, do you intend to commit and complete the conditions that you have agreed to within the time frame agreed to?
No, and I agree with Councilmember Inaba that the language as written that we're reviewing, I don't believe that that has any effect on the economic development of the county because it's in line with the current practice, only clarifying further the responsibility to delegate. I believe that fully eliminating that discretion to delegate could have a potential impact on economic development. But as it's written here, I don't think it does personally.
Thank you. I appreciate the discussion.
And if I could add, Chair,
Sure.
The motion on the floor right now is to forward it with a favorable recommendation to council. And I would probably ask Corporation Council because the Windward Planning Commission has the same motion, but the discussion was they support the intention. So what you folks are going to do today is either forward it as the motion currently stands, perhaps forward it with a negative recommendation, or forward it with a positive recommendation and recommend a change on a clarification on the intention. But I just want to make sure that the options are clear so that when it comes back to us and I have to report it to my colleagues and they can review the minutes, it's clear what is being recommended and whether you folks support the true intention with the clarified kind of language or you don't.
If I may, Mr. Chair, if you need me to.
Is that?
If you need me to address that.
Sure.
Just for the record, Councilmember Inawa is correct. The motion on the floor was to forward, to move for a favorable recommendation to the county council on bill number 194, as was referred to this body, I believe on August 17th, 2022. The commissioners have that language in front of them. If it would like to propose any amendments to the bill as it's stated, there would need to be a subsequent subsidiary motion and then you articulate that language. Or there's the option to, go through this motion, take a vote. If it fails or whatnot, there's an option to move for an unfavorable recommendation if that's the commission's intention. But as far as I'm concerned with the bill that's referred to the body, to this commission as is stated on August 17, 2022, the language is there. If there's any amendments that the commissioners would like to make, there would need to be a subsidiary motion.
Okay. At this point, do commissioners feel ready to vote on the motion on the floor? Okay.
Chair, just for clarity when we go back, so you folks don't support, because the language right now is not as clear as proposed amended language. So I want to make sure that you folks are saying you support it as it is and you don't support the true intention of the bill. Because that's where we're gonna have a gray area. The Windward Planning Commission was clear. So I just want to make sure we're clear where you folks stand. And if it's Bill 194 as referred with the language there, you don't support the true intention with the clarified language, then that is what I will say to the council when it gets to us.
So is one possibility, one of the commissioners, one of us could put forward a motion to adopt the same language as the word commission?
This is Deputy Corporation Counsel Kiola. I don't really understand, you know, the bill as is written right now is what it is. If there needs to be clarification around the true intention or any other discussion surrounding that, I would think that the commissioners would need to propose some sort of amendment to the current language. I'm not sure what the Windward Planning Commission did, and it looks like Ms. Jackson would like to address that, but I just want to be clear that the motion on the floor is what it is. I want to stay away from introducing additional language to that motion with respect to, you know, with the intention of, because to me that blurs, that really is a gray area. Ms. Jackson.
Thank you. The Windward Planning Commission voted to forward a favorable recommendation to the County Council on Bill 194. So that was the original bill. They actually didn't see the amended language from Councilmember Inaba.
Mahalo.
And I can just add, there was discussion because Councilmember Inaba was at that meeting too, and he stated what his intention was for the bill, but in the end, they voted to forward a recommendation on Bill 194 as written.
To me, intention is difficult to clarify. I think we're bound by the words that are put before us rather than intention behind them. If the wording would be changed and brought back in the bill, then we would be reviewing that at that time. But for now, with this wording before us, you know, we can make our recommendation, and if there are any recommended revisions to it, we can add those in a subsequent motion. So this time, is there anyone would like to offer a subsequent motion to make revisions to Bill 194 that's has a main motion on it already? Seeing none, we will proceed with the roll call vote for the motion on the floor.
Okay, Commissioner Knowles.
Not here.
All right.
No problem.
Sorry, I made my note incorrectly here. Commissioner Paiton Duarte. Aye. Commissioner Kanuha.
Aye.
Commissioner DeFranco.
Aye.
Chair Batusik.
Aye. Mahalo.
Chair Van
See.
Mahalo. My apologies if there's confusion at the end here. And when we do get it back to committee, I'll be clear that it was recommended with the language as it was presented to you folks, and the planning committee can take up any discussion and amendments at that time.
Mahalo. And to continue that, I hope that you know you will be involved heavily in the overall code revision that will have a much bigger effect on how all of this moves forward in the bigger picture, so that you can really get the intentions behind this, the clarity that we all want in there.
Yes, I must have missed you folks at the meeting last night.
Right.
But mahalo for all your service. Appreciate it.
Mahalo. Okay, moving on to the planning director's report. We have a report on the status of the Ali'i corridor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief on this. Our planning director had contacted the Department of Public Works and received a response that basically says To start the project up again, there were 3 items. One is to reevaluate the EIS, which is expired. Number 2, reevaluate the archaeological report. And number 3, obtain construction money. 200 million to 250 million. Consultants said construction costs of approximately 5 times the original estimate of 50 million.
So that's it. No.
Yeah, it's, and I believe he had said that.
Disappointing, really.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So I would venture to say it's stalled at this point.
Yeah. Okay. Is there any efforts to initiate federal highways funding? Is there anything being sought on that end?
Not that I'm aware of, but I can follow up on that. Find out if there's anybody in either finance or public works seeking grants or federal funding.
And I just don't know how that works. Is it Public Works Highways Division that would be liaisoning with federal highways, or is it state DOT? It's a county corridor, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're acquiring the right of way through different condemnation actions, which have, there's still portions, I believe, that need to be obtained. But yeah, that's tough news to hear.
Yeah. Shouldn't be smiling, it hurts too much, but yeah, just 250 million. Okay, moving on to the report on special management area determinations, minor permits issued. Oh, sorry.
So the 250 million, that had to do with how the original drawings and the original proposal was of the road, right? A 4-lane road or something? That's the 250 million.
Yeah, the original construction
The
cost.
original construction. So
were
now.
50 million.
Right.
And now in current costs. would
Yeah.
be
Right, but that was a different design. I mean, they are not even looking at a redesign and a renegotiation, and that's, you know, I'm.
So I can speak to that.
Okay.
It says, I spoke with the consultant who was the project manager when the project was stopped in 2005. A federal EIS reevaluation was completed. Archaeological report finalized and the construction plan was redesigned from 4 to 2 lanes. The name changed from Ali'i Highway to Ali'i Parkway to reflect the 2 travel lanes and wider walking and biking pathways. The project was bid out and awarded to Goodfellow, and then stopped due to archaeological issues and public opposition to the project. I believe that was during Harold Kim's time.
Any further questions? Okay. Report on special management area determinations, minor permits issued by the planning director.
Hi, Chair. So we sent the logs out earlier this month. If you have any questions, I can answer those.
What was Ms. McMichael referring to on her testimony? TMK 78014-019. I didn't see that on the. Is that a recent one?
You know, unfortunately.
Yeah, so that project was on a previous log back in January.
Okay.
But what I can do is I had Alex Roy, our SMA planner, look into it while we were at the meeting. And we did issue 2 approvals. It looks like they are non-shoreline properties.
Yeah.
And therefore they're not considered development because the size of the homes was under 7,500 square feet.
Single family homes.
Correct. So because it's not development, then the valuation does not come into play. There were some 60 reviews done for those projects. One of the properties required archaeological monitoring. So I've asked Alex to send me McMichael an email just to inform her of the project and why she was not informed,
Okay,
and why it didn't require an SMA major.
okay. Mahalo. Agenda items for the next meeting? Is there any, anything any commissioners want to have on the agenda, upcoming agenda items? No, okay, just business. The Leeward Planning Commission's next monthly meeting is scheduled for Thursday, November 17th, West Hawaii Civic Center. We don't have a time yet.
It should be at 9:30.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Chair, I have a couple announcements. So as you heard, the county planning department is initiating changes to our zoning and subdivision codes. If the public wants to participate, has any ideas that they want to share, they can go to codeupdate.com. I'll repeat that again.
And would you mind sending an email with the information to the commissioners?
We already did. It was on that flyer that we sent out
Perfect.
to you last week.
Perfect.
But I just want to say this in case anyone's
Okay,
watching on
on
YouTube.
Zoom. Perfect.
Yeah. So it's COH as in County of Hawaii, codeupdate.com. And it's a fairly ambitious timeline. We're looking at trying to get these updates to the commission and council for adoption in spring of 2024.
Okay.
I don't know. I think, I forget which commissioner mentioned it, but having a discussion. I don't know if you folks want to put something like that on your agenda to have a discussion of ideas, or if you just want to share them directly with the planning department and consultant staff. You could do it either way.
I would love to have a meeting. Yeah,
Sure.
to have, especially while they're in the community outreach component of the timeline.
Okay. Okay. I'll work with you, Chair, on when to do that. The other announcement is I have some really great news. As of 2023, we can start using council chambers for our planning commission meetings. This is really good news because it significantly reduces the amount of equipment setup that staff has to do.
Oh,
And I
awesome.
think the whole system, the microphones, the recording is a lot easier to use.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
we're a little quiet today. I don't know what's going on.
Okay.
Technical difficulties.
This is shouting.
Like me.
So it looks like we're able to have our third Thursday of the month meetings all next year, except for May, which would be a Friday meeting, the third Friday. And Noriko will send that schedule out to you once it's finalized.
Okay.
Okay.
Any updates on the commissioner from North Kohala?
We're still looking for candidates.
Commissioners, if you have any recommendations for North Kohala community representatives on the planning commission, please who should we let know?
I would say Pomai
Pomai.
at the mayor's office.
Okay, terrific.
And then we'll have election of officers coming up in December, so just keep that in mind. For chair and vice chair.
For SMAs.
Time extension for SMAs.
Yeah, kind of stuff that kind of we brought up, I would say a few months ago in our meetings. Just that discussion that's been going on, and obviously they're similar to the rezone. There's guys that are coming in to change a condition and get another 10-year extension on their 20 years they haven't completed the project. I think that's huge, and especially big projects should be held accountable.
Yes.
I think if we can put that on the agenda for discussion, that'd be great.
Okay. We can try to do that maybe for December. Would that be soon enough?
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Okay. If there's no further business, someone make a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Your second?
Second.
Motion by Vice Chair DeFranco, second by Commissioner Kanuha. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No one ever opposes. Okay, well, it is 11:44.